John.
School of Rock, you do, you rock. And Lou, I'll be late to the barn on Friday, but I'll be there. I wanted to share with you all a story that when I heard really touched my soul. It's a story attributed to Mother Teresa. There was a woman that flew over to see her in Calcutta. She wanted to see her works and visit with her and get to know her. As the days go along, they're having breakfast one morning, and this woman shoves a check across the table to Mother Teresa. And Mother Teresa shoves it back, goes, no. The woman again shoves it across, says, no, I'm a woman of wealth. I want to help. Mother Teresa said, no, shoved it back to her. Said, you come with me. Took her out on the streets of Calcutta. Pointed out a young girl and said, you take care of her for the day. That evening at dinner, that woman was able to tell Mother Teresa she knew exactly what she meant. It meant service and action.
So, hey, am I on? Hey? So, hey, what's going on? What's going on with that? What's going on with our world? Why is it showing up how it is sometimes? That we're ending up crying in bed wondering what's going on. Mary Mannon Morrissey, a spiritual mentor and New Thought teacher, said, inspiration without action is mere entertainment. Eric Butterworth, Unity teacher, said that after all is said and done, and a lot of other people have said this, a lot more has been said than done. So when we look at what's going on, we need to look at ourselves, right? Because the only place we can have shift and we can have action and we can have change and we can have co-creation is when we look at ourselves. So what's going on is there's a missing link between vision and action. No? Now, that missing link sometimes happens within ourselves, and in Unity, we talk a lot about the places where it happens within our own personal lives and how to get our lives from where we are to where we want to be. But there's a whole nother realm of co-creation, is there not? We are one family, one life. What affects my brother affects me. What affects my world affects me. I cannot breathe without breathing the air that someone else created, and that someone else is another part of me. It just simply happens to live outside of my body. Amen? So when we look at what's going on in the world around us and we say, hey, what's going on? We can pause for a moment in our own lives and in our own communities, in our own congregations, in our own states, in our own country, and in our own world. And we can look at our actions. Unity has 5 basic principles, just 5, and they're not necessarily actually set in stone. A lot of people don't know this, but the 5 principles actually came out about 100 years after Unity was founded. In 1990, in a Daily Word magazine, Connie Fillmore Bazzi was asked, she is the great-granddaughter of the Fillmores, she was asked to nutshell Unity. And she nutshelled Unity into these 5 basic principles. There is one power, one presence, and one power. It is God, the good omnipotence. The second principle was that this power, this life, this goodness is inherent in all beings. Goodness is inherent in all beings. The third was the law of mind action, that our thoughts, our emotions, how we ideate, our perceptions and our perspectives have an effect on our world, that we co-create. The fourth was what I call the MAP, meditation, affirmation, and prayer. That when we explore spiritual principles, it's ours to put them into action in our own lives and to get that original connection. And the last principle is nothing less than action. And it's the last principle, I think, because it's the foundational piece. Because without the last one, none of it makes a difference, does it? Because the last one, action, calls us to take a look at our own senses of separation, judgment, bigotry, whatever it is, you fill in the blank. It takes us to look at those and to act on it and to say, am I acting in alignment with principles? Am I acting in alignment with good? And without action, none of these make much of a difference, do they? You can know how to meditate. We can know how to use affirmative prayer. But if we're not using it, it's impotent in our lives. So, it's not enough to know these truths, but we must be here as a force field to take action. A mouse looked through a crack in the wall to see the farmer and his wife open a package. What food might this contain? He was devastated to discover in that package there was a mousetrap. Retreating to the farmyard, the mouse proclaimed the warning. There is a mousetrap in the house. There is a mousetrap in the house. The chicken clucked and scratched and raised her head and said, Mr. Mouse, I can tell you, I see that this is a grave concern to you, but it is of no consequence to me. I cannot be bothered by it. The mouse turned to the pig and told him, there is a mousetrap in the house. The pig sympathized but said, I'm so very sorry, Mr. Mouse, but there's nothing I can do about it but pray. Be assured you are in my prayers. The mouse turned to the cow. She said, wow, Mr. Cow. The cow said, wow, Mr. Mouse, I'm sorry. Wait, the cow said, wow, Mr. Mouse. I'm so sorry for you, but it's no skin off my nose. So the mouse returned to the house, head down and dejected, to face the farmer's mousetrap alone. He felt very, very alone. That very night, there was a sound heard through the house, like the sound of a mousetrap catching its prey. The farmer's wife rushed to see what was caught. In the darkness, she did not see it was a venomous snake whose tail the trap had caught. The snake bit the farmer's wife. The farmer rushed her to the hospital, and she returned home with a fever. Everyone knows that you treat a fever with fresh chicken soup. So the farmer took his hatchet to the farmyard for the soup's main ingredient. But his wife's sickness continued, so the friends and the neighbors came to visit and sit with her around the clock. To feed them, the farmer butchered a pig. The pig. The farmer's wife did not get well. She died, or as we say in Unity, she made her transition. So many people came to her funeral, the farmer had the cow slaughtered to provide enough meat for them all. So the next time you hear someone is facing a problem and think that it doesn't concern you, remember, when one of us is threatened, we are all at risk. We're all involved in this journey called life. We must keep our eye out for one another and make an extra effort to encourage one another. Each of us is a vital thread in another person's tapestry. Our lives are woven together for a reason. Good story? There's a saying attributed to many different people throughout history, but it goes something like this. The measure of a society is really measured by how it treats its most fragile, by how it treats its least fortunate, by how it treats the ones it calls not me and other. The measure of a society is based on how it treats that population. In Jesus' words, the master teacher said, "Inasmuch as ye have done it unto one of the least of my brethren, you have done it unto me. That shows the message of the unity consciousness, that the master teacher was so fully in unity consciousness in the mind that there is one presence and you are an expression of that one presence, that the understanding that if you hurt something outside of you, you hurt yourself, never can they be separated. That knowing was embedded, was foundational. Charles Fillmore said, spiritual unfoldment always causes one to direct toward God's children everywhere a kindly feeling that is constant, that is deep, that is tender. So in unity, we focus on centered action. Why is centered action so important? And how is spiritual social action different in the unity way? How does it differ from all other of the magnificent types of social action there is out in our world? Well, spiritual social action must have a foundation of principle. In unity, we believe that our thoughts make a difference, right? So we believe that where I'm coming from as I'm being present to you makes a difference. So if I am being present to you and I am helping you because I think you are lesser than me, or I think you need my lesson, I think you need my church, I think you need my money and my help, I think you're not okay. I think that there is really something in my individual ego-centered person that could make a difference in transforming your life. Then I'm off the mark. Then I'm off the mark. There's a difference between a hand out and a hand up. Probably everyone's heard the phrase, give a man a fish and he'll eat for a week, but teach him how to fish and he'll live forever. It's in a good song if you want to look that up. It's an important concept to consider the possibility that there is something even greater than a handout, and it's a hand up. See, the distinction and the difference is that a hand up is helping someone up from anywhere, from where we could be. In an instant, we could be in that space, and we know that. That we could have been born into similar circumstances, had similar life occurrences, and we could be in the same place. So we recognize we're just lifting our brothers up, lifting our sisters up, and it's not heavy, it's not a burden, it's meeting in consciousness. A hand up entails knowing that each of us has a beauty, a magnificence, a wholeness, a divinity within. And that we see through all of the issues, all of the problems, all of the addictions, all of the suffering, we see through to that true nature. That's a hand up. A hand up is coming from the vibration that I see you, I honor you, I am with you, I am you, you are me. A hand up gives support, which empowers. A hand up comes from equal ground to help each of us step up when we fall. Where do you think the master teacher and saints and sages throughout history have come from in their consciousness when they have made transformation happen on this physical plane? Do you think they came from a place, a consciousness that is vibrationally entrenched in fear, pity, sorrow, anger, devastation? Do you think they acted from that place? When we act from those places, there's no real transformation that can happen because those emotions, those experiences aren't here to lead us into action. They are here to lead us to process them, to presence them. I love it that Deepak Chopra says that we are the nervous system of the universe. We are the nervous system of the universe. So what is mine to do when I'm in a place of fear, when I see suffering and I feel it and I can't stay focused on the spiritual truth? The spiritual truth that we're not just here to be alive for 100 years or less and then fly off to another dimension and live in suffering. We're here because we're on a spiritual path. We're on an unfoldment into high and holy consciousness and expressing that consciousness. So it's fine to feel all of these things, but it's not a starting point for creation. It's not a starting point for creation and action. It's a starting point for the evolution of self, for breathing into principle, and going into meditation, affirmation, and prayer and saying, what is mine to do about this? Because these feelings have inspired something in me. These feelings have disturbed me. What I see outside of me disturbs me. A starting point for processing emotions. That's what those feelings are. We can only create that which comes from the vibration we are centered in. We can only create that which can birth from the vibration we are centered in. So if we truly want to birth empowerment, if we truly want to birth a hand up, if we truly want to activate social action and helping our community, helping each other, we must be grounded in principle, we must be grounded in truth, and we must act from a different consciousness. This consciousness was embodied in Mother Teresa. It was embodied in Buddha, who awoke to finding the difference between his life and his privilege and the world around him. And it broke his heart. So what did he do with it when it broke his heart? He sat there. He sat there until he got the idea that all suffering is illusion, that life is suffering, but suffering is illusion. He sat there until it moved through him and he knew how to act. Jesus, the master teacher, embodied the same principle, was so in the flow of the notion that God and I are one, that you are the light of the world and you're here to have that light shine, so immersed in that notion that compassion was the birth point of his action, that love was the birth point, that spiritual understanding. These are the places to co-create from. These are the places to act from. Love, compassion, spiritual understanding, grace, gratitude. When we find that we've done our spiritual work and process emotions to the degree that we can come from that center of one of these spiritual qualities, we're ready to do our work. I think that's one of the reasons why in this great story that John shared, why Mother Teresa said, wait, you need to put back the check. Because that's not what this is about right now. That check is the idea that I can somehow put my money somewhere and fix it. And she was saying, I want your consciousness there. I want your consciousness there. Because that's the only way for real healing and real transformation. If the consciousness in me gets it, then I can share that consciousness with you, and then we can get it together. And what happens if anyone really knows about spiritual social action, those of you that are involved globally, locally, within your own communities, what happens when we enter into service, sacred service? The notion that we are serving flies out the door, flies out the door. And we recognize and we realize that we are being served, that it is an overflow, it is a side effect, it is a magnificent moment of grace that this acting shifts other people's lives, transforms and gives. Because we recognize that just as all of life is one, a great inhale and a great exhale, the lines between service and server become mystically, beautifully blurred. Amen? So, this week is the start week for Campaign for Consciousness. Campaign for Consciousness is a 40-day affirmative meditation campaign where people from around the globe take a statement, a vision, related to some social action, and first create a firm foundation in consciousness. First, get clear, get all the ideas of fear, all the ideas of lack out of the mind to come from a place of principle to center on that, and use the 40 days, which is as long as it takes metaphysically, use that 40 days to express a vision, to become a vision, to emanate a vision, and to allow from that vision action to be inspired within us, and from that place to co-create. All helping, all loving comes from a positive intention, right? It's hard to look out at the world and say someone that's loving and that's helping doesn't have a positive intention. But we all know that society and individuals can be pulled off track quite quickly when their own livelihood is affected by their giving. So what does it say when we create a system that my livelihood depends on helping someone else that needs me rather than dancing with another beloved? What does it do when in order for me to help you, you have to take on my ideology? What does it do if in order to keep my company or my business alive, I have to have someone beneath me? It doesn't co-create what we're here to co-create, does it? So the distinction between a handout and a hand up is huge. And that inspiration comes to each of us in our own unique way. If you think that nothing is yours to do, if you think that there's somehow, some way that no matter what you tried, nothing could make a difference, allow yourself to be surprised. Allow yourself to be inspired. Allow yourself spiritual-centered action. In the words of Anita Kotick, she said, if you think you're too small to have an impact, try going to bed with a mosquito in your room. Namaste. If you have one of these that you got in from the door when you came in, if you don't, raise your hand and the ushers will try to bring one around. But this is our campaign for consciousness. Let us close this service knowing this affirmation together. If you have one, keep your hand up. If you don't have one, keep your hand up. And until they get around to everyone, if you could share with a neighbor, that would be awesome. If you keep your hand up, they'll make sure you get one. And if you would like to download this or share it after the service, you can go to campaignforconsciousness.org. You can print them out. You can make it your screensaver. You can put it on the attachment to the bottom of every email you send for the next 40 days so that everyone gets it. But let's hold this vision together. This year's affirmation is dedicated to accountability, to spiritual and external accountability. Imagine a world where everyone is accountable. And imagine how that would transform the world we see outside of ourselves and the world we experience within ourselves. Let us know this affirmation together. We believe in the power to grow greatness. Our thinking impacts our lives, and our lives impact our world. How we spend our time, fill our minds, and fuel our souls makes a difference. We align our words and actions with our core values. Confidently, we release insecurity for inner authority and selfishness for selfhood. Consciously, we exchange excuses for accountability, a hand out for a hand up, and impotence for impact. Courageously, we contemplate the nature of beliefs, implication of thoughts, and impact of actions. Energized and encouraged, we authorize only ideas and images that co-create a world that works for all. With a growing sense of authority and conviction, we express as courageous, informed, capable members of the creative universe. And so it is.